You can make your point with incorrect grammar, but if you want to make a good impression, then get it correct. Here are some common mistakes that native English speakers make that if you correct, you can really level up your communication skills. And let me just make a quick disclaimer that I'm talking about standard American English, what's considered grammatically correct. Number one, ain't. You hear it a lot. It's very common, but it's not really a word according to standard American English. It's better to say is not. We have double negatives. I even do it when I'm speaking with friends, like, oh, you don't want no more? That is not correct. The correct would be you do not or don't want any more. We'll often mismatch the subject and the verb. For example, they was. Now, here's the thing. In today's day and age, this is actually correct if you're using it in a very specific scenario where the person you're talking about with that pronoun, they, is gender neutral. Otherwise, it should be he was, she was, or they were. Native speakers do not like to use the ly for some reason at the end of an adverb, like, hey, come quick, instead of come quickly. I think because it's just like, maybe we're being lazy, but that's a big one that I see all the time. Could have versus could of. I can totally see where this happens, and to be honest, I used to make this mistake a long time ago, but I remember actually looking this up the moment that I was like, wait, is this wrong? So could have and could have, they sound exactly the same. That's the problem. But on paper, in writing, it's could have, okay? It's never could of, but it sounds like it. Effect versus affect. Again, a lot of these grammar mistakes come because we communicate often by speaking, by listening, and we don't see the way that these words are written on paper or in a text or whatever, in an email. But bottom line, effect, which is not how you really say it, but just to be clear, effect is the noun. So, he had a big effect on me. Versus affect is the verb, which sounds the same if you say it normally, affect. He affected me greatly. He had a big effect on me. Again, it's so easy to confuse because they sound exactly the same. Fewer and less, we mix these up all the time because the meaning is the same, but we use them specifically with count nouns or non-count nouns. But, the average person is not thinking about this. They're just trying to communicate what's on their mind. So, I have fewer dollar bills than I did yesterday, but I have less money. Okay, that's the correct way to use it. Some people might say, hey, it doesn't matter. You could say less dollar bills, fewer money. But that just sounds wrong because it is. Another one that's super often with the mismatched subject and verb is there is a lot of. There is plural, but a lot of could be used with a count noun. Like people might say, oh, there's a lot of wild horses over there. Look, I don't know why that's the first thing that came to mind. Maybe because on the wall I have a picture of a wild horse. Anyway, it would be correct to say there are a lot of wild horses over there, but it's harder to say. So we just end up being lazy and say there's because it rolls off the tongue so much easier. Try it. Is it easier to say there are, there'er, or there's? Tell me. Another one, faulty parallelism. I used to always get called out by my English teacher on this one when I was writing essays. Again, when you're speaking, it's not something that people will notice that much. They might, but it's not such a big deal. But when you're writing, it's a little awkward, and certainly your English teacher will notice. So faulty parallelism is when you say, for example, I like to cook and watching movies, or I like cooking and to watch movies. The correct way would be to keep both of those activities in the same form. So either I like to cook and to watch movies, or I like cooking and watching movies. They're your to and its. These four are commonly mixed up. I did talk about them already in my spelling mistakes video, so if you want to learn more about those, watch that video. I talk more about them. But let's keep it moving. Well and good. So people will mix these up a lot. How are you doing? Oh, I'm good. How are you? That's actually incorrect. However, it's far more common than saying I'm well. If I respond to my friend saying I'm well, it sounds cold. It sounds too formal because it's too correct. And that's the thing, that's the nuance about English, is you have to understand that sometimes if you're 100% correct, but you're not speaking the way that most people do, you could be perceived as a little cold. So how do you know? Observe. You know, you have to immerse yourself in an English-speaking environment. You have to watch a lot of videos like this one, of course. You have to, put yourself in a situation where you're observing a lot, and then you'll know because you're smart. You're going to recognize patterns. You're going to notice what's common and what's not, what's correct and what's not, and you can make a decision for yourself. You don't have to always follow what your English teacher tells you to do. I mean, I know I'm your English teacher and you should do what I tell you to do, but I'm actually different than your average English teacher, because I'm not saying that you have to say things every time like perfectly correctly. I'm saying that you should know the difference between correct and common, and then you can make the choice for yourself.